For 20 years, my family had a word for me.
Slow.
Not broken. Not struggling. Just slow. Like it was a personality trait. Something I'd chosen. Something I deserved. My name is Delia Winsford. I'm 28 years old. And for 2 decades, while my sister Margot collected degrees and inheritance promises, I collected silence. Dinner table jokes. Sighs from my mother that lasted longer than most sentences. A salary that was less than what the company spent on catered lunches. But on the night my father stood in front of 350 people and announced that I didn't exist, a stranger walked toward me through the crowd with an envelope. And everything my family had built on top of me was about to come down. Let me take you back to the beginning. The Winsfords were old Manhattan money. The kind of family whose name appeared on hospital wings and museum plaques. My father, Gordon Winsford, ran Winsford Properties, a commercial real estate empire my grandmother, Eleanor, had built from a single Brooklyn office in 1965. By 2024, it was valued at $92 million. I was born with dyslexia, diagnosed at 7. Letters would swim and rearrange themselves on the page, turning simple sentences into puzzles that took me 3 times longer to solve than anyone else. My parents' response wasn't support. It was shame. When I was 12, they hired tutors for Margot. Violin lessons. French immersion. SAT prep with a Princeton graduate who charged $400 an hour. When I asked about getting help for my reading, my mother Pamela just sighed. Delia, we've already spent so much on specialists. At some point, we have to accept that some children just aren't academic. I was 12. I believed her. So I learned to adapt on my own. Audiobooks became my lifeline. I built systems of visual notes, diagrams, flowcharts, ways of processing information that traditional reading couldn't give me. And every Sunday afternoon, I'd take the train to my grandmother Eleanor's apartment on the Upper West Side, where she'd sit with me for hours. Delia, she told me once, her weathered hand covering mine. You read slower than most, but you see things others miss. That's not a disability, sweetheart. That's a different kind of vision. I didn't fully understand what she meant then. I would eventually. Christmas 2018. 20 relatives around the mahogany table in my parents' Upper East Side townhouse. Crystal chandeliers. Catered dinner. The annual performance of Winsford Family Perfection. My father stood at the head of the table, wine glass raised. I'd like to make an announcement. Margot has been accepted to Harvard Law School. Full scholarship. Applause.
Cheers.
Margot blushed with practiced modesty. My eldest daughter, Gordon's voice swelled, will be the first Winsford to attend Harvard in 3 generations. She's going to take this family and this company to extraordinary heights. More applause. Then his gaze drifted down the table.
To me.
And Delia, he paused. The warmth evaporated. Well, Delia is also here. Soft, uncomfortable laughter. The kind people make when they don't know what else to do. Margot laughed along with them. I stared at my plate. The roasted lamb blurred through tears I refused to let fall. Under the table, a hand found mine. Thin fingers. Papery skin. Grandma Eleanor, seated beside me, squeezed once, sharp and fierce. When I looked up, her eyes held something that looked almost like fury directed at her own son. She didn't say anything.
Not then.
But 3 months later, she called me to her apartment, said she needed to show me something important, and she pressed a small wooden box, mahogany, brass hinges, into my hands. Keep this safe.
Don't open it yet.
When you need it, you'll know. After graduating from a state university in 2022, not an Ivy, never an Ivy, I applied for a position at Winsford Properties. I wanted to prove myself. My father agreed to hire me as an administrative assistant. Salary, $42,000 a year. That same month, Margot joined as chief legal counsel. Her salary, $280,000 plus bonuses. My job was photocopying documents, booking conference rooms, and fetching coffee for executives who never learned my name. I wasn't invited to a single meeting, never shown a single contract, but I watched, and I listened, and I discovered something about myself in those long hours in the copy room. I could see patterns others missed. When executives discussed deals in the hallway, I'd sketch diagrams, the relationships between parties, the flow of money, the potential conflicts. The skill I'd built to survive my dyslexia had quietly become something else entirely. Grandma Eleanor had taught me this. During our Sunday afternoons, she'd spread out old contracts and show me how to read them, not word by word, but as systems. As architecture. Your father reads contracts like a lawyer, she'd told me once. He looks for what he can exploit. You read them like an architect. You see how all the pieces connect. April 2024. The email arrived on a Tuesday afternoon. Subject: Position restructuring, confidential. Your current position will be eliminated. Effective July 1st. I read it 3 times. That evening, staying late to organize files no one would ever look at, I heard voices through the thin wall separating my cubicle from my father's corner office. Gordon and Pamela. Can't have her here when Margot takes over, my father was saying. It looks bad. The CEO's sister working as a secretary. We've done everything we could for her, Gordon. My mother's voice was soft, almost gentle. Some children just don't have what it takes. Exactly. So she needs to go. We'll give her a generous severance. She can find something more suited to her abilities. I pressed my palm flat against the wall. If I lost this job, I'd be homeless within 2 months. My studio apartment in Queens, shared with 2 roommates, cost $1,800 a month.
No savings.
No safety net. But the money wasn't what made my chest tight. It was the realization settling into my bones like frost. You couldn't find anything nicer? This is what I have.
Well.
She adjusted her Cartier bracelet. You'll be at table 27, near the service entrance. Try not to draw attention to yourself. She leaned closer. Tonight is Margot's night. Whatever resentment you think you're entitled to, keep it to yourself. Don't embarrass us. She walked away before I could respond. Table 27 was at the back of the ballroom, half hidden behind a pillar. From my seat, I could see the main stage, the massive portrait of Margot in her Harvard regalia. The banner reading, "Congratulations, Margot Winsford, Harvard Law, Class of 2024. And near the entrance, standing completely alone, was a silver-haired man in a gray suit. Not mingling, not eating, just watching. His eyes found mine across the crowded room, and something cold moved down my spine. At 8:30, the orchestra stopped. The lights dimmed. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight to celebrate an extraordinary young woman. Gordon's voice filled the room. Margot graduated top 5% of her Harvard Law class. Made partner track at a white shoe firm in record time. But tonight, I'm not just celebrating her achievements. I'm announcing her future. Margot joined him on stage, radiant in emerald Valentino. Effective immediately, Margot Winsford will inherit my entire estate, our family residence on Park Avenue. And most importantly, he paused for effect, the position of CEO of Winsford Properties when I retire. The room erupted. Standing ovation.
Camera flashes.
The cousin beside me leaned over. Delia, right? So what does that mean for you? I opened my mouth. Closed it. September 12th, 2019. 5 months after Eleanor had pressed that wooden box into my hands. Your grandmother gave me explicit instructions, Ellis said. I was to deliver this document on the day your father publicly disinherited you. He glanced toward the stage. I believe that just occurred. My hands were trembling as I took it. Mr. Ellis, what's in here? For the first time, something almost like warmth moved through his expression. She told me to tell you. Give this to Delia on the day Gordon shows her exactly who he is. By then, she'll be ready. He straightened his tie. I'll be available when you have questions. Then he turned and disappeared into the crowd. I pushed through the service entrance and found an empty hallway near the kitchen. Fluorescent lights. The sound of celebration muffled behind the doors. My fingers shook as I broke the wax seal. 3 pages of dense legal text.
A notaris de signature.
A date, September 12th, 2019. I read slowly.
Carefully.
The letters swam, but I forced them into focus. I, Eleanor Margaret Winsford, being of sound mind and body, Do hereby revoke all previous testamentary documents. My eyes caught on a paragraph near the middle. To my granddaughter, Delia and Winsford, I bequeath 51% of my shares in Winsford Properties LLC, currently valued at approximately $47 million, along with all voting rights associated therewith. I read it again. 51%. Controlling interest. The will continued. This bequest is made with full knowledge of my son Gordon's treatment of Delia. She has been excluded, diminished, and denied opportunity, not due to lack of ability, but due to lack of support. Delia is not slow. Delia was abandoned. And I will not allow her father's prejudice to continue after my death. A sob caught in my throat. Grandma had seen. She had seen everything. Condition: to activate this bequest, Delia must formally request an emergency board meeting within 72 hours of receiving this document. Failure to act within this window will render this will null and void. 72 hours. The deadline would fall at 8:30 p.m. on May 18th. Ellis was waiting by the coat check when I emerged. Why would she put in the 72-hour clause? My voice cracked. Your grandmother knew you, Miss Winsford. He handed me a second card with a handwritten number on the back. She knew that if she gave you unlimited time, you'd convince yourself not to act. The deadline isn't a punishment. It's permission. Permission to stop waiting for your family to change their minds about you. Through the ballroom doors, I could see my father still on stage. My mother circulating among guests, accepting congratulations as if she'd earned them herself. If I did this, if I invoked the will, I would destroy every relationship I had left. My parents would never forgive me. Margot would call it a betrayal. But if I stayed silent, I would accept their verdict. I would become exactly what they'd always said I was. Miss Winsford. Ellis's voice cut through the spiral. Your grandmother believed in you. She spent the last years of her life preparing for this moment. The question is, do you believe in yourself? I looked at the will in my hands. At the elegant signature of the woman who had held my hand under Christmas dinner tables and taught me to read contracts like architecture.
I'll call you tomorrow, I said.
We're requesting that board meeting. Ellis allowed himself a small smile. She said you would. That night, back in my Queen's apartment, I opened the wooden box for the first time. My roommates were asleep. The only light came from the street lamp outside, casting orange stripes across my bed where I sat cross-legged, the mahogany box in my lap. The brass hinges creaked as I lifted the lid. Inside, a handwritten letter on Eleanor's personal stationery, a faded document with a 1965 date stamp, and a USB drive, sleek and modern, added much later. I reached for the letter first. My dearest Delia, if you're reading this, then James has done his job, and your father has done exactly what I feared he would. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you while I was alive, but I can protect you now. The enclosed document is the original partnership agreement from 1965, when I founded Winsford Properties. Your father has never seen it. It establishes that the founder's shares carry permanent voting rights that cannot be diluted or transferred without board approval. The USB contains something else, something your father hoped I'd forgotten. In 2018, Gordon proposed a resolution to reduce my voting rights from 51% to 10%. His stated reason: I was too old to understand modern business. The real reason: he wanted control, and I was in his way. The board rejected his proposal by 2 votes. I was one of those votes. I never forgot what he tried to do. And I never forgave him for the way he used you to justify it, as though diminishing you somehow proved I was unfit. Use this wisely, Delia. Not for revenge. For justice. All my love, Grandma Eleanor. I plugged the USB into my laptop. And I started reading. Not slowly. Not with shame. Not with the familiar dread of letters rearranging themselves on a page.
But the way she had taught me.
Like an architect. Like someone who could see exactly how all the pieces connected. And for the first time in 20 years, I wasn't the slow one. I was the only one in the room who understood what was about to happen.